we will be able to understand how to set up SMART goals, how to develop a professional plan. Let us take a look at how to set and achieve SMART goals, expand professional knowledge and training. As a working professional, a learner must always expand knowledge by enrolling in courses, attending workshops and training programs, and getting certificates. Improve work performance. With a positive mindset, work performance will improve drastically. Keeping away from distractions, reaching early to office, and getting rid of negative attitude will make you work efficiently and effectively. Strengthen professional relationships. Workplace has different types of people and everyone is not fond of all. But professional etiquettes and relationships should be maintained. Simple greetings and respectful responses will create a healthy work environment. Better presentation skills. The corporate world makes one meet several people, participate in meetings, and get assigned with multiple tasks. Hence, the presentation skills have to be very good. Just knowing the subject matter is not enough. Presenting it in good language with clear communication is even more important. Attain a higher job role. Never settle or become complacent. Always work towards making your career or organization into something better. This requires hard work, patience, perseverance, and commitment. Experience, right attitude, and high values should be acquired. Gain new experiences. It is important for every worker to step out of his or her comfort zone. This can be done through volunteering for special community programs, talking to new people, exploring the work field closely, learn from past mistakes, and thus gather experience. Friends, we will now learn how to achieve your goal. 1. Make a career plan. Identify the short-term goals and the long-term goals. Also, write down these goals so they always remain in front. Writing goals makes them look real. 2. Create a roadmap. Once the short-term and the long-term goals are set, identify the steps to achieve them. This exercise is helpful when there is too much work pressure or when the proposed plan is just not taking off. 3. Deadlines give the necessary motivation to start a work. Temptations sidetrack us from the goal. There might occur gaps in achieving our goals, but it should not stop us from working again. Deadlines help us in the target achievement. 4. Reward yourself after every accomplishment. Once in a while, give yourself a treat, especially after an achievement. It shouldn't be too huge, but just enough to keep yourself motivated and energized. Rest after an accomplishment is very important because an overworked mind will simply slow down. 5. Find a partner. Try to have a buddy for all the activities that you are involved in, be it the gym, sports, workplace, or even for hobby fulfilling. That will provide you with the necessary support and motivation. Friends, now let us look into how to set achievable professional goals. Set very professional, practical, and realistic goals for yourself. These will help you stay focused. 2. Devise a plan. Develop a concrete plan to achieve the goals. As an instructor, prepare weekly schedule, monthly schedule, lesson plan, and demo plan. 3. Commit to your commitment. In spite of many obstacles that might occur on the journey to achieving the goals, you must remain committed to your commitment with full honesty and sincerity. 4. Write down your professional goals. Pick up a pen and some writing paper and in bold letters and clear language, write down your goals. Instead of may or might, do use will. So friends, to continue your professional development plan, there are various options available. Contact at least 3 industries for on-the-job training or DST and sign MOU for 3 months. Join a refresher course on any topic related to training methodology or soft skills for 6 months. Join career development programs or any new courses to update knowledge for 12 months. Join a diploma or degree course to upgrade qualification for 36 months. Identify successful trainees and motivate, guide them to become an entrepreneur. So friends, this brings us to the end of the second part of continuing professional development. Let us take a quick recap of what we have learned here. We understood 1. How to set and achieve SMART goals. 2. How to achieve your goal. 3. How to set the achievable goals.
And the professional development plan.
Module number 1.12.01. Topic name: National Skill Qualification Framework. Hello teachers! Today we will learn about the National Skill Qualification Framework, NSQF. As part of the objectives at the end of the lesson, you shall be able to define NSQF, state the objectives and key elements of NSQF, list and state the NSQF levels and their descriptors, state the approach of implementation of NSQF in vocational training, explain QP and NOS.
The National Skills Qualifications Framework, NSQF, is a competency-based framework that organizes all qualifications according to a series of levels of knowledge, skills, and aptitude.
This study is mainly divided into 2 parts. In the first part, we will study about Introduction of NSQF, its objectives and key elements, various levels of NSQF, approach of implementation of NSQF in vocational training. And in second part, we will study about Qualification Pack, QP and NOS. Let's begin with the part 1. In this part, we will study about Introduction of NSQF, its objectives, various levels of NSQF, and approach of implementation of NSQF in vocational training. The objectives of the NSQF are to provide a framework that does the following. 1. Accommodates the diversity of the Indian education and training system. 2. Allows the development of a set of qualifications for each level based on outcomes which are accepted across the nation. 3. Provides structure for development and maintenance of progression pathways which provide access to qualifications and assist people to move easily and readily between different educations and training sectors. 4. Gives individuals an option to progress through education and training and gain recognition for their prior learning and experiences. 5. Underpins, that is, supports national regulatory and quality assurance arrangement for education and training. 6. Supports and enhances the national and international mobility of persons with NSQF compliant qualifications through increased recognition of the value and comparability of Indian qualifications. The NSQF facilitates the awarding of credits and supports credit transfer and progression routes within the Indian education and training system. The key element of the NSQF is to provide 1. National principles for recognizing skill proficiency and competencies at different levels, leading to international equivalency. 2. Multiple entry and exit between vocational education, skill training, general education, technical education, and job markets. 3. Clearly defining progression pathways. 4. Promotion of lifelong learning and skill development. 5. Partnership with industry or employers. 6. A transparent, accountable, and credible mechanism for skill development. 7. Increased potential for recognition of prior learning. The qualification framework is beneficial to schools, vocational education, and training providers, higher education institutes, and accrediting authorities. The qualification framework is also beneficial to industry, its representative bodies, unions, professional associations, and licensing authorities. Friends, in this part of knowing the NSQF, we will learn about the various levels of NSQF. Each level of the NSQF has a set of descriptors made up of 5 outcome statements.
These statements generally describe the minimum knowledge, skills, and attitude that a learner needs to acquire in order to be certified for that level.
We will now see what are the 5 levels or set of descriptors. Each level of the NSQF has 5 domains known as level descriptors. These are 1. Process. 2. Professional knowledge. 3. Professional skills. 4. Core skills. 5. Responsibility. Process. Process is a general summary of the other 4 domains corresponding to the level. It is implemental in all activities of vocational training. Professional knowledge. Professional knowledge is what a learner should know and understand with reference to the subject. It is described in terms of depth, breadth, kinds of knowledge, and complexity. Professional skill. Professional skills are what a learner should be able to do. These include 1. Cognitive and creative skills involving the use of intuitive, logical, and critical thinking. 2. Communication skills involving written, oral, literacy, and numeracy skills. 3. Interpersonal skills and generic skills. This domain is implemented in practical exercises in vocational training. Core skill. Core skills involve dexterity and the use of methods, materials, tools, and instruments used for performing the job, including IT skills needed for that level. This domain is implemented in workshop science, engineering drawing, and employability skill. Responsibility. This involves A. Nature of working relationships. B. Level of responsibility for self and others. C. Managing change. D. Accountability for actions. This domain is also implemented for all learners and trainer activity in vocational training. Module number 1.12.01. Topic name: National Skill Qualification Framework. These descriptors thus give a broad but meaningful indicators of the learning outcomes at each level. The NSQF has indicated 10 levels with descriptors for vocational training in the ITIs. Let us quickly try to understand these 10 levels in brief. Level 1. Process required. Repetitive process requires no previous practice. Professional knowledge. Familiar with common trade terminologies, meaning of instructional words. Professional skills, routine and repetitive. Core skill, reading, writing, basic mathematics, awareness of social, religious, and environmental diversity. Responsibility, works under constant supervision. Level 2. Process required. Repetitive processes with little more understanding and practice. Professional knowledge, material tools and application with emphasis on contextual quality. Professional skill, limited service skill, differentiates between good and bad quality. Core skill, receive and transmit written and oral messages, basic arithmetic, understand social, political, religious diversities. Responsibility, works under constant supervision. Level 3. Process required, limited range of routine and predictable activities. Professional knowledge, basic facts, processes and principles. Professional skills, recall and demonstrate practical skill. Core skill, oral and written communication with minimum clarity, basic arithmetic and algebra. Banking, understanding social environment. Responsibility, Work under close supervision. Basic responsibility under defined limits. Level 4. Process required. Familiar, predictable, routine situation of clear choice. Professional knowledge. Factual knowledge of field of study. Professional skill. Recall and demonstrate practical skill using quality concepts. Core skill. Written and oral communication skills with clarity. Basic arithmetic and algebraic skills. Understanding of social, political, and natural environment. Responsibility. Responsibility for own work and learning. Level 5. Process required. Job that requires well-developed skill with clear choice of procedures and familiar context. Professional knowledge. Knowledge of facts, principles, process, and of general concepts in a field of work or study. Professional skill. Range of cognitive and practical skills required to accomplish tasks and solve problems by selecting and applying basic methods, tools, materials, and information. Core skills. Desired mathematics skill, understanding of social, political, and some skill of collecting and organizing information communication. Responsibility. Responsibility for own work and learning and some responsibility for others' work and learning. Level 6. Process required. Wide range of specialized technical skills, clarity of knowledge, practice in broad activities range. Professional knowledge. Factual and theoretical knowledge in broad contexts. Professional skill. Range of cognitive and practical skills for specific problem solving. Core skill. Good skills in mathematical calculations, good in data collection, good in organizing information, good understanding of social, political, religious, natural environment. Responsibility. For own work and learning, complete responsibility for others' work and learning. Level 7. Process required. Command wide-ranging, specialized, theoretical and practical skills in routine and non-routine jobs. Professional knowledge. Wide-ranging, factual and theoretical knowledge in broad contexts within a field of study. Professional skill. Wide range of cognitive and practical skills to solve specific problems. Core skill. Good logical and mathematical skills, understanding social, political, and natural environment, collecting, organizing information, clear communication. Responsibility. Full responsibility for output of group and development. Level 8. Process required or professional knowledge or professional skill. Comprehensive, cognitive, theoretical knowledge and practical skills to develop creative solutions, demonstrate intellectual independence, analytical rigor, good communication. Core skills or responsibility. Exercise management and supervision in the context of unpredictable changes at work, responsible for self and others. Level 9. Process required or professional knowledge or professional skill. Advanced knowledge and skills, critical understanding of subject, demonstrating mastery and innovation, completion of research. Core skill or responsibility. Decision making in complex technical activities involving unpredictable work situation. Level 10. Process required or professional knowledge or professional skill. Highly specialized knowledge and problem solving skills to provide original contribution through research and scholarship. Core skill or responsibility. Responsible for strategic decisions in unpredictable, complex situations of work or study. So, teachers, this brings us to the end of this part of NSQF. We learned various levels of NSQF. Approach of implementation of NSQF in vocational training. Module number 1.12.01. Topic name: National Skill Qualification Framework. Friends, now we will get an understanding about the National Occupational Standards, also known as NOS. National Occupational Standards, NOSs, specify the standards of performance, knowledge and understanding when carrying out a particular activity in the workplace. Each NOS defines one key function in a job role. For instance, for a sales associate, one of the NOS would be to help customers choose right products. The National Occupational Standards specify the standard of performance an individual must achieve when carrying out a function in the workplace. He or she must also have the knowledge and understanding that is required to meet a standard consistently. Each NOS must be a concise and readable document, usually consisting of no more than 5 or 6 pages. In their essential form, NOS describes functions, standards of performance, and knowledge or understanding. The NOS are laid down by the employers, defined by the Qualification Pack, QP. We will now understand Qualification Pack or QP. A Qualification Pack, QP, is a set of NOS, National Occupational Standards, aligned to a job role. A QP is available for every job role in each industry sector. The need of the hour, therefore, is to have a set of skills that qualify at both national and international levels. All over the world, there is a paradigm shift from education based on inputs towards education based on learning outcomes. This emphasis on learning outcomes is significant because 1. It increases transparency and strengthens accountability of qualifications for the benefit of individual learners and employers. 2. Most of the industrialized nations are reforming their qualifications and developing frameworks to reflect new demands in society and the labor market. In many cases, the implementation of qualification framework has been widely supported by international organizations and is often linked to aid money and even loans. In India, general education and vocational education and training have been operating as separate verticals with minimum interaction, resulting in hesitation among the youth to opt for vocational education. In order to facilitate mobility from vocational to general education and vice versa, a qualification framework, that is, the NSQF, has been set up. The NSQF will make the progression pathways transparent, thus facilitating students and employers to address the issues of inequity and disparity in qualifications. With institutions across India having their own entry requirements, curriculums, and duration, there is a lack of uniformity in the outcomes associated with different qualifications. Obviously, therefore, the equivalence of certificates or diplomas or degrees are impacted, affecting the employability and mobility of students. The development of quality qualification will remove the negative perception associated with vocational education. So friends, in this part of the module, we have got an idea of the NSQF and the qualifications pack. So friends, that brings us to the end of this module about NSQF and its implementation in vocational training. We learnt in this module 1. The meaning and implementation of NSQF. 2. Various levels of NSQF. 3. National Occupational Standards. 4. Qualification pack. I hope you now have received all the required information about this.
Carpentry is filled with tasks that will require you to mark the material. The marks often specify the place where a material will be cut. These marks provide specific guidance during the sequence of operations. In this session, you will learn to work with the different marking tools. After completing this session, you will be able to identify the various marking tools, use the various marking tools, observe precaution while using marking tools. Let us look at all the different types of marking tools used in carpentry. Pencil, marking knife, steel ruler, marking gauge, mortise gauge, cutting gauge, chalk line. The carpenter's pencil is flat and wide. It tends to have a harder tip than standard pencils. It is used to leave a clear but temporary mark on wood. Let us understand how to use the carpenter's pencil. Hold the carpenter's pencil just as you would hold a standard pencil while writing. Use a steel ruler to measure and mark both ends to draw a line joining the two ends where the wood is to be cut. You can also draw a line with the tri-square. Do not press the pencil unreasonably hard as it may break the lead. Always use a chisel to sharpen your pencil. A marking knife is made of steel. It works like a scriber to create a registration line. The pointed end works like a scriber and the blade forms the cutting edge and is used to create a registration line for a chisel or saw. Hold the knife tightly as you would hold a pen, with one finger on top of the blade to guide your hand. The more distinct the line, the better the cutting tool will find and keep its mark. Use water or oil stone to sharpen the knife if it becomes blunt. A marking gauge is usually made of shisham wood. It consists of a wooden beam on which a wooden stock slides. This block can be adjusted at the required measurement using a thumb screw. The beam is provided with a spur or a steel pin at its far end. Use a steel ruler to take the measurements. Set the marking gauge by loosening the screw and shift the stock at the requisite distance from the spur. Once you have set the stock, tighten the thumb screw to secure it. Push the marking gauge in a manner that the spur touches the wooden piece at all times, making a continuous scratch. Remember, the side should be at the right angle to make a parallel line on the wooden piece. A mortise gauge is a marking gauge with two spurs. It is mostly used while marking the wood for the mortise and tenon joints. Use a steel ruler to take the measurements. Once you have set the stock, tighten the thumb screw to secure it. Push the spur forward much like the marking gauge, marking two parallel lines at the same time. Use a triangular file to sharpen the marking, mortise and cutting gauge. Cutting gauge looks and functions much like a marking gauge. It is mostly used to make deep marks while making rabbet and dovetail joints. In addition to this, you can also use it to cut off thin strips of plywood or wood pieces up to 3 millimeters in thickness. The cutting knife is held with an aid of a wedge. You can adjust the length of the knife by loosening this wedge. Use a triangular file to sharpen the cutting gauge. A chalk line is used to mark uneven surface or when you need to mark off a long area. It consists of a strong thread. Use a steel ruler to take the measurements. You simply need to wet the thread slightly and dip it in colored chalk powder. Hold or tie the thread on one side and tightly hold it on the other end. A pluck of the string gives you a puff of chalk and an instant straight line. Keep these basic tips in mind while working with these tools. Do not use too much pressure while using your pencil. Keep the pencil sharpened at all times. Do not use your scriber to pierce holes in the wood. Use water or oilstone to hone the cutting edge of a marking knife. Fill in the cut with a dark pen or pencil if you have trouble seeing where the woodworking knife made its mark. While gauging, you must ensure that the stock is held firmly against the wood. The side of the wooden piece must be trued to get accurate marks. Use a triangular file to wet gauge spurs. Dip the chalk line completely in colored chalk powder. Keep the chalk line string straight and taut while marking. Taking accurate measurements is perhaps the most critical part of carpentry. The old adage, measure twice, cut once, holds true, especially in carpentry. In this session, you will learn to work with the different measuring tools. After completing the session, you will be able to identify the various measuring tools, use the measuring tools, observe precautions while using the measuring tools. There are many types of measuring tools in carpentry that will help you measure the distance between surfaces. Let's take a look at them. Tape measure, steel ruler, collapsible ruler, folding ruler, tri-square, meter square, firm joint caliper, spring joint caliper. The carpenter's basic measuring tool is the tape measure. The modern tape measure consists of a metal tape wound up within a plastic or metal box. Lines etched upon the tape surface indicate increments of measurement in centimeters and inches. You will find a metal clip called a tang attached at the end of the tape. To use a tape measure, simply pull the tape out of the box. Hook the tang to a stationary object such as the edge of a board. Use a carpenter's pencil to mark the places to be cut. The tape will tend to retract when you pull it out. This is because of the spring-like mechanism that keeps the tape coiled inside. A steel ruler is a shorter measuring tool. It is available in sizes of 1 to 3 feet. It looks like a common wooden or glass ruler you use in a classroom. It is similar to the tape and has measurement lines etched along the ruler's edge. Place the steel ruler against the object. Use a pencil to mark the object at the desired dimension. Make sure that the first marking line of the ruler lines up exactly with your object's leading edge. A collapsible ruler is also called a zigzag ruler. It consists of 10 pieces, each loosely riveted to the other. Each piece is 10 centimeters long, totaling up to make the entire length of 1 meter. It is mostly used to measure longer lengths. A folding ruler consists of 4 folds, each 6 inches long. The folds are joined together with metallic or plastic hinges. It is a great little wooden folding ruler that folds up to 6 inches and expands to 24 inches. Unfold the ruler and take measurements by holding it against the object. A tri-square is an L-shaped precision instrument. A tri-square can be used to check the squareness of a surface and as a guide for marking lines with a pencil prior to cutting. It consists of 2 parts, a steel blade and a cast iron stock, which also serves as the handle. These 2 parts are set at right angles to each other to form an L shape. Hold the tri-square by the stock with the blade resting on the top edge. Press it firmly against the item you wish to check. Check to see if any light is visible between the stock, the blade, and the item. If there is, the item is not square. A mitre square works much like a tri-square. It is mostly used for framing joint. The only difference between the two is that the blade and stock are fixed at 90 degrees in a tri-square and 45 degrees in a mitre square. Slide the mitre square over the external corner of the wooden piece. The blade should be in contact with the entire piece. Check the trueness of the surface by pressing the mitre square firmly against the surface. Keep these basic tips in mind while working with measuring tools. While using the measuring tape, take out only the required length of tape. Do not use the steel ruler to tighten screw. Keep the measuring ruler scratch-free. Keep the ruler in a separate slot in your toolbox. Avoid wide, slanting marking lines that obscure your measurement. Ensure this slight gap is not included in measurement. Do not use a hammer on the tri and mitre square. Do not carelessly throw the measuring tools while passing it to a fellow carpenter or while packing up. Be careful while removing the firm joint caliper so that the legs do not move. As a carpenter, you will have to make cuts of different types. Hand saws come with different sawtooth patterns and blade lengths. In this session, you will learn to work with the different types of hand saws. After completing this session, you will be able to identify various hand saws, use various hand saws, observe precautions while using hand saws. Hand saws are used to rip and cut through material. They are generally used for cutting timber into smaller pieces or lengths. The hand saw consists of a blade and a handle. The end, which is closest to the handle, is called the heel. The end that is farthest from the handle is called the toe. The bottom edge of the saw is called the front. The top edge of the saw is called the back. The sharp protrusion along the front of the saw used for cutting are called teeth. Here are some of the basic types of hand saws commonly used in carpentry. Rip saw, crosscut saw, panel saw, tenon saw, fret saw, keyhole saw. A rip saw is used to cut along the grain of the wood. It is used to cut large wooden pieces. Let's look at the parts of a rip saw in detail. The rip saw consists of a blade and a handle. The tooth of a rip saw has an angle of 60 degrees minus 8 degrees from the perpendicular of the front and 52 degrees on the back. Measure and mark the wood before you make a cut. Draw a guiding line using a carpenter's pencil and a steel ruler. Support both sides of the wood on a workbench before you start sawing the wood. Grasp the saw's handle with one hand and support the wooden piece with the other. Position the point of your saw blade on the mark you made with a carpenter's pencil. Push the saw slightly down and forward, applying even pressure throughout the cutting stroke. Pull the saw back evenly. Continue to push and pull the saw blade with slight downward pressure as you're making the cut. Saw with a steady and easy rhythm to make a nice clean cut. Let's take a look at the parts of the rip saw again. A crosscut saw is used to cut across the grain of the wood. It has a different teeth pattern to that of a rip saw. The angle on the front of the tooth is 15 degrees from the perpendicular, while the angle on the back is 45 degrees. A crosscut saw is used in the same manner as the rip saw. Push and pull a crosscut saw just as you would a rip saw. Avoid using the crosscut saw if you notice upset grains on the wooden piece. Panel saw is the most commonly used saw. It is a smaller version of the rip saw. It is also used to cut boards and plywood. You can use it to cut panels for door shutters. Handle the panel saw just as you would use a rip saw. The tenon saw is more rectangular in shape with relatively fine teeth that is used to cut tenons in mortise and tenon joinery. These saws are used for rip cutting and crosscut for cutting across the grain with precise control. It is used for finer works that need accuracy. It has a reinforcing strip to keep the blade going straight through the entire stroke. Use it just as you would use any other hand saw. A fret saw is used for cutting thin woods and doing intricate curve work. It looks different from other saws. A fret saw consists of very fine blade held in tension by a wooden or metal frame. It has a small nut to tighten or loosen the blade. To cut holes in the wooden piece, simply drill a small hole. Pass the blade from one end through the drilled hole. Put the blade in place by tightening the screw. Be extremely careful while doing so. Grasp the straight handle with one hand and follow the markings and cut carefully. Let's take a look at the parts of the fret saw again. A keyhole saw has a thin, narrow blade. It is used mostly to cut intricate curves or make holes in the wood. The pointed, narrow blade allows you to begin cutting from the center of a wood panel. You can even use it to expand a drilled hole. It is specially used to cut keyholes for a mortise lock. To make a keyhole, you need to first mark the place where the keyhole needs to be cut. Then use a drill machine to punch the mark for the saw to start cutting. Grasp the keyhole saw handle and guide the pointed edge of the saw in the pre-made hole. Cut the wood according to the thickness and shape of the key. Keep these basic tips in mind while using the hand saws. Make sure that the teeth of your saw are sharp. Ensure the saw handle is firmly fixed. Don't press down too hard while sawing. Avoid cutting through knots in the wood whenever possible. Always use caution and wear safety equipment when you are using a hand saw. Do not put away the saws with the rest of the hand tools in the toolbox. Use a separate box to store them. Wrap the saws in a cloth when not in use. Bench planes are workhorses that are used in carpentry workshops to smooth wood surface by gradually reducing wood to achieve its finishing dimensions. One needs a lot of practice to use bench planes appropriately. In this session, you will learn to work with different types of bench planes. After completing this session, you will be able to identify and use the various bench planes and its parts. Use setting, holding and planing techniques of all planes. Perform surface planing. Perform chamfering and assemble and dismantle bench planes.
This is the third method of ground improvement techniques, which is soil densification. In previous two videos, we have discussed about soil compaction and soil stabilization. In this, we will be discussing how soil densification can happen in ground improvement technique. Soil densification, application of shock or vibration